Alright, let's look for our phases of the moon demo, is the one we want to work on next. Now, they have styrofoam balls, and I like using a styrofoam ball for this with just a wooden skewer in it. You can just use a pencil, you don't have to get a skewer or something and put in it. Years ago, what I used to do with the smaller one, even smaller than this, and we'd paint half of it and have a dark side and light side, and you know, it's like, oh, to make something the sun, and keep your light side towards the sun, and what do you see, how it changes, and it was more work than I wanted to do. And so then I saw online somewhere that quite simply, you put the light up and you put this here. Now what do we have? We can't see. Of course with this camera you definitely can't. You can't see the moon. That would be a new moon. It's all shadowed towards us, right? Now it's not so dark in here that we can't see it. Yeah, we can, but we know the shadow is pretty towards us. And as we start moving, we can see that waxing crescent happening here. We really see where that comes in. Then when we get off to the side, we can see it right here. What do we have? We have our first quarter. Alright, so this camera is terrible. I use my cell phone. I think it would do a better job. You ever buy something and think it's going to be good and find out it's terrible? Don't believe the reviews on that one. Alright. I'm just going to use my cell phone as a to show what I'm seeing. And what I'm seeing here is the ball representing the moon is completely shadowed on my side. I am not seeing anything of the light side of this because that side's towards the sun. Now as the moon starts to move, we can see right here, you can see very well the where we have our waxing crescent. Remember, wax on. And then as we move, it moves around me being the earth. Or right here we have our first quarter. And so we have right at half the earth in the picture, as in from our angle, right? And so then we keep moving, we can see most of it. So we have our waxing gibbous, am I saying that right? I don't know. Then as we go over here, whoops, now that we have the entire light side face towards the earth, so that's our full moon, right? So then we can get our waning side, waning gibbous, third quarter. We can see there, that waning crescent, we can see a little bit of sliver of the moon. And then we're back where the shadowed side is towards us completely. Now, to do this, I like using a smaller ball part of the time. I know the people that got the kit, I gave you the larger one because basically I wanted to see how they worked. But one thing I noticed with my light, it might be just because I'm so close, I'm not sure. But with my light, when I went to do the eclipse, that larger one was bigger than the diameter of my light, and so it blocked out entirely. And where this one, it kind of shows on what a regular eclipse would be. And so I think it does a little bit better job. Now, as we go around, and the first time I was kind of in my shadow, I'm going to lower this so it is in my shadow. Now, when we talk about the eclipse, the lunar eclipse, right? That was a solar eclipse, this would be a lunar eclipse. We wouldn't see this because it's in the shadow of the earth, and that's where it would disappear. It would be in the shadow of the earth. And so normally we can see that full moon as it's going through there because it's not in the shadow of the earth. And so those are a very easy demo, very inexpensive to do with just a light. And so we can do that with just a light. Use the styrofoam balls very easy, and you can really see it very well. I used to think, like I said years ago, that, oh, I have to paint one side to make it really obvious for them. You really don't. They can see that just fine. They can see that. Now, one thing when you do this demo, make sure we're going with don't go clockwise, right? Because that's gonna to be running backwards. You have to go, counterclockwise. Go to the left. And so that's because that's the direction of actual travel, and so that's why we're seeing things. And it's nice. I like pulling up one of the visuals, and I can give you a couple links to those if you want. I mean, just Google search it, you'll find some. But I like pulling up those visuals to talk about what are we seeing first. And I realize kids these days are a little too young. We used to do the whole Karate Kid wax on, and I realize it's not weighing off, but it's kind of where we used to go with it. But that worked well for us, and I like this. It's a very simple demo. And next, what we'll do is we'll show you the cup, the one I do with the cup, for them to be able to practice. All right, so we just did what we call it, Phases of the Moon.
Okay.
As a demo using this, and again, I have the small ones, and there's really not a need to buy a big one. Like I said, I just wanted to buy the big ones to see how that works. And if it's too big, it blocks out the light a little too much, in my opinion. But so the small ones seem to work just fine. Now, if you don't want to use the expenditure, then by middle school we have a little bit of imagination. You could actually use your fist. You could put your fist up and see where the light change. I mean, you can see here from your angle that the back side of my fist, this is lit, right?
I can see that.
And so now the problem with using a fist, it's not round. And so you'll get shadows in here, which can kind of confuse the kids a little bit, because they see shadows here, and so they're not sure. You don't see when that shadow moves as nicely as you do with a sphere.
Okay.
And so some sort of a ball, especially a lighter ball, color ball, so you can see the shadow.
Yeah.
If it was all dark, you wouldn't really be able to see the shadow very well.
Right.
And so some sort of a ball, styrofoam balls work great.
Okay.
Like I said, you can use the skewers that we use, kind of a skewer. If you're really afraid about the kids like stabbing each other and stuff, I missed you, rats. Then you can put a pencil or a pen. I don't have one on me.
Yeah.
You can use a pencil or pen to shove in there and have them use that, and that's fine too.
Yeah.
Just know that after a while, they're going to keep shoving it through until you might only be able to use them for a couple years. I don't know. But all right, there's those. Now another way to do it is using, and I mean, full disclosure, I saw this on Pinterest.
Perfect. You find good things
because we have a Pinterest page. I was like looking for things out of that. And I'm like, what? That looks doable.
Yeah.
And so I did that. And what they did was they put a sticker.
Round sticker.
Of course, I thought I need a big old a big one, right?
Yeah.
Big yellow one to be the moon. Well, that was my mistake, because what you have to do is put a piece of black in there to represent the universe, right? And then put a cup over it, and the students have trick. Now, if you use that big one, I couldn't get all of. Oops, rotating the wrong way again. I couldn't get them all in there. And so, hence the small one.
I see.
And so, what I really like about this, I don't know which camera to show it to. Big, small?
Yeah.
What I really liked about this was, as we have new, right? And you can rotate that, and they're going to see just a little bit. They make that. I had them draw these. And so I gave each of the kids a cup and let them actually draw this out. They had to draw. I did the whole control thing, and so we had drawn out on the board exactly what they needed. And when I do this lesson, one of the things I do is this is the bonus lesson for the ones that finish the paperwork. Yeah, because you have some of them that are so fast with that paperwork. And what I do, what I like doing is in the the PowerPoint, I put a link to like the one of the NASA links to misconceptions.
Oh, okay.
I used to use a different site. I think Bad Astronomy is what it was.
I've seen that one.
Which I'll put that in there too. I just have to find it in my old notes. But I used to just find a bunch of misconceptions and stuff, and I would write out my lecture on the board.
Okay.
I would write a small lecture on the board about facts and stuff about them, the moon, the cycle, the phases of the moon, and I would write that on there. Then I would give them a sheet where they had to, it was kind of a fill in the blank, but they had to go and search rather than me stand up there lecturing again. It was something different. And so they had to search the board, and then they got the misconceptions sheet. And I had picked which misconceptions I wanted them to do. And all right, so then fill out your notes. So they made in their notebook, they kind of, here's the questions. I had the questions written on this board. Then I had my lecture on this board. And so they kind of had to copy down the questions and fill in the blanking. Is basically what it was. It was a fill in the blank worksheet that they were copying in their thing, more or less. But it was something different. They had to move around and they had to hunt and search for things. And so that's why I liked it.
Yeah,
it was
kind of interactive and got them moving.
Yeah. And so I had the questions they had to copy down. They had to, with always a blank in it. They had to fill that in based off all the notes I did.
Okay.
And I would start off quickly going over the notes that I've already written on the board, and then say, okay, well, there's the questions. Grab your notebook. Make sure you have all this filled in. And the last one was, draw the phases and label. And so then once they got that done, they had to go to the misconceptions one. And with that one was a sheet that had certain misconceptions that I talked about in the notes. And so I explained why these are wrong. And so then when they got that done, I had the bonus activity, which some of the kids got to, some didn't. And I just... I was all right with that. The others had the option to come back and do it later if they wanted to. I had actually some come in at lunch and stuff, so I had to eat lunch in the room. It was okay. But I didn't think they'd take me up on it. But had them making this, and it's kind of a neat little review thing. Then if you're doing this with like I know some people are teaching different things. We have more than just classroom teachers. We have the after school and projects and stuff like that. If you're doing a club thing or a project thing, this would be a great thing for them to do, obviously. But and it's all they would have to have is this. I mean, every kid gets a cup, right? That's all they'd have to have because it's all on there. It's all on the cup. And so, but it's really kind of cool to be able to see that phase change.
Great.
And so I like that. And again, rotation matters on the order you do it.
Okay.
And it was kind of funny the first time I did the video with the skier and walking around. Then I went and I downloaded it to the computer. I'm like, wait a minute. I just did all that backwards. So I quickly redid the video so it was in the correct order.
Okay.
Because that's just one of the little things I didn't think about. But that's a couple of ways to model phase changes. I would say where they can create and actually physically do. I know a lot of teachers I think do the ball and stuff around, but it just shows it. It does a really good job. I've seen it done with like the little Nerf balls, which you can't seem to find anymore.
Yeah, I know.
They're all harder Nerf balls now. But I've seen it done for years, and it's good. It's concrete. You can see it. You can visibly actually see that, and it helps them understand. And so that's why I like doing the whole model thing with the phases with the ball. And this is just kind of a bonus thing. Like I said, it's a bonus activity that I do. Once again, it reinforces. And I will say some of the kids that were a little slower and they really needed the extra reinforcement, I usually had one or two of these that I made up. And some of the kids, I let them take those because I knew this student needs a little extra help, and they were kind of excited about the idea, but they weren't going to have time. I mean, some of the students, they're not going to get through it, but they'd like to have something like that to be able to help them. And if I thought that was that student, they were really going to use it, and I knew they wouldn't have time to do it, I had some made up and gave them. And because you want to help them, support them.
Sure.
As part of scaffolding.